All right. So, yo, it's your boy Yellow the Poet. I am here today with Mr. Brad Dude. Mr. Brad Dude is an author. He's also been doing some things with NASA, I noticed, and I'm very proud to actually have you here. Thank you so much for joining YTP Entertainment.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So
Tell
nice
me a
to be
little bit more about yourself.
well. I have been in the training and development business for a long time. I was lucky enough to work internationally most of my career, 35 plus countries, I guess I've worked in. And I think that experience and downtime during that time allowed me to develop my writing a little bit. And so I started to, mostly I was doing training in leadership and management development for young folks just starting out on their careers in management or leadership. So
Awesome.
I've finished about 6 books on leadership, and then most recently I just finished a novel, which just came out in March. So I'm very proud of that too.
Yes, awesome. That is awesome. So, with your novel that you just finished, what are your plans for it? What are you looking to do with it?
Well, it came out in March. I first actually wrote it as a screenplay because
Awesome.
it's kind of an action adventure
Mhm.
novel about a shipload of migrants trying to find a safe place to live, and they've been turned away. It's kind of based on, unfortunately, on reality today of the challenges that migrants face.
Mhm.
And this was a group of Africans and Middle Eastern and kind of South Asian folks who've been they're trying to get to Europe. They've been turned away from all the European ports. And so, what do? Do we go back home and face the repercussions of that? Or do we try to find a whole place? And that's what the novel is all about, the challenges that they face.
Okay, awesome. That is very impressive. I like that. So, um, when you're helping some of the youth, what are some of the challenges that you face in helping them?
Well, even at NASA and other companies that I've worked with around the world as a consultant and manager, Um, what I found was that oftentimes young folks are promoted, and of course everybody wants to be promoted, but
Mhm.
they get promoted because of their technical skills. So if you're an architect, really great architect, you get promoted to being the manager, and so that's great, but you don't really have any management skills or people skills that allow you to manage other architects.
That's
And
true.
so oftentimes what happens is because they don't kind of know what to do, they end up kind of looking over the shoulder of the architects or whatever specialty it is who's
Yes.
doing the work and telling them, oh, no, that's not the way you do it this way, kind
Yeah.
of the way I used to do it. That's called micromanagement. That ticks everybody off
Yes,
and
it
leads to not a good uh,
does.
performing. Or so I leadership skills that helps them kind of hit the ground running.
Awesome. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So, what are your current and some of your future goals when it comes to helping some of the youth? What do you actually look to help them to be able to do?
Well, the focus of my I have 6 books on leadership that are out on Amazon, and they all have to do with kind of self-awareness, how we managers or leaders
Hmm.
uh, can 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 be more successful.
Hmm.
It's found research has found that the first year that folks are on the job, that's when they develop good skills, bad skills that kind of sticks with them a long time. So if you're an organization that is promoting from within, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
But oftentimes these new folks don't even get to have training, for several years after they're on the job, and they've already habits, and it's hard to keep habits. So my next to last book was called Quick, I Need to Be a Leader in 30 Days.
Mhm.
And that was kind of based on a course I did at NASA for 9 years. And the idea was, and also it coincided with the COVID plague that we're all still dealing with. So
Yes.
there was fewer and fewer in classroom kinds of training available.
Mhm.
So we were doing everything kind of like this by Zoom, which is
Virtual.
not as much fun and not as impactful, I don't think. So I wrote the book as if you couldn't go to a course, but you wanted to kind of walk through the course. And it's a 30 days, step by step. Here's what to read. Here are the concepts. Here's an exercise for you to do, and talk to a supervisor or a coach or a friend at the end of each week to kind of talk about what you've done.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's kind of how I've approached it during the COVID years.
That's pretty cool. So, although it has COVID has had an impact on multiple entrepreneurs, businesses, families, how has COVID um, forced you, I'll say it that way, to restructure what you do in your business?
Yeah, well, for 9 years, we were doing, uh, different courses in person in different places. And COVID, the first thing that kind of was cut was in-person training.
Hmm.
And so that really curtailed my time to get out there and travel around. And so I've been more based at home doing some things Zoom. For an example, I did a leadership course last year for 50 people in 3 states all at the same time.
Oh,
But all
wow.
you see are, a whole bunch of little pictures of people in front of you, and it's kind of difficult. And so that has kind of faded away as well. And maybe things will pick up now that we're all doing better with getting vaccinated and everything. But
Yes.
that allowed me more free time to actually focus on my writing. And in fact, the last year, that allowed me to focus on writing the novel, which is called Finding Eden, A Perilous Quest to Find a Safe Migrant Homeland,
Yes.
also on
Yes.
Amazon right now. So that allowed me, the good news for me was it gave me some time off to work on the book.
Awesome. So has this amount of time, even though you've had this time off, has it impacted your writing either positively or negative in any way?
Yeah, I think it's impacted positively, um, because I can go back through my other books, and what I kind of wanted to do was, most of the 6 books are all they're nonfiction based on here's some practical approaches to leadership. I
Mhm.
think any new leader could use all 6 of them and have them in their little library and say, this is how I get smarter as quick as I can in terms of leadership and management.
Yes.
So, but I wanted to also put it into a context that was a little bit different.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of leadership aspects in my novel that different groups who are in conflict with each other throughout the book. I've got shipwrecks and pirates and all kinds of folks in this new novel.
Cool.
A lot of action and adventure, and but I wanted to also exhibit some leadership to show some people, some characters exhibiting leadership that I've talked about, specifically in my other books. So that was a positive impact of COVID on me.
Awesome. Awesome. That is wonderful. I'm definitely glad to hear that because I've been hearing a lot about some of the negative impacts that people have had during COVID, and it's been crazy. It has been. Um,
Yeah.
so in your book, Finding Eden, what is the main plot that you're looking for people to get from it?
Um, the plot is all about a rescue ship in the Mediterranean Sea,
Hmm.
who, and there are actual ships doing that today, that are rescuing folks that go off the coast of oftentimes Libya. And in my story, it's about a group that have gone out of Libya, and they rescue them at sea and try to find a place to go. And with all of the European ports closed to asylum seekers,
Hmm.
they are ordered to go to the next nearest country and just disembark everybody and put them in detention camps. And unfortunately, there are detention camps all over the Mediterranean and Europe that these folks have to go through. Most of them get deported back home, and that can be that can be life threatening for so many. So anyway, in my story, the captain, we have a female German captain, sea captain, who makes a tough decision to go strike out and find an uncharted island that she had found, and they go there to try to at least have a temporary solution. And so it's the challenges that they all face as they are trying to survive together, different cultures all mushed together to try to survive.
Awesome, awesome. So, can you tell me how does finding Eden? Is there any correlation between finding eating and your takeaways as you've been teaching leadership with NASA?
Yeah, I think so. We find in the story that we've got these terrible pirates who run this island, and they have thrown the different groups into three different camps, three
Mm.
different villages, an African village, an Arab village, and a kind of South Asian village, and have perpetuated myths that each are after to try to kill each other. So we've got some built-in conflict between groups. And in leadership, you find conflict all the time in an organization, as well.
That's
Sometimes
true.
it's not declared that like it is in this novel, uh, but we're constantly dealing as leaders with conflict. How do we manage conflict? How do we try to reduce the emotional side of it? So part of it is emotional intelligence. That's a major aspect of all my leadership books. And people, your listeners can read tons of information on emotional, intelligence. There's tons of books, beautiful books written about it. I put it in my book as an example of the leadership principles, one of them that every leader ought to be considering. So throughout Finding Eden, you'll see the leaders of these different groups try to talk to their colleagues, their fellow prisoners, really on this island, and eventually how they will work together and cooperate. And of course, kind of problem solving and cooperation is something that we all want uh,
Mhm.
in life, whether it's between departments in an organization or between cultures or between political parties that we have in America. The need for cooperation is there in all aspects of our lives today, and this story kind of illustrates how a group of people do that.
Awesome, awesome. So, is there a difference in emotionally in teaching leadership and management skills at NASA versus teaching it anywhere else?
Uh, I don't think there is. NASA, we have found that they are usually at the top of the list of uh, in satisfaction ratings, worker satisfaction in government. They're usually the number one government agency to work with. And so
Mhm.
you think, hey, they got it together. And in many ways they do, but uh, they face, same problems I found in other places. You
Yeah.
have uh, you have women, young women, who are promoted, and they are technically brilliant. These are scientists and astrophysicists and engineers, brilliant people technically.
Hmm.
They're in charge of a team of a lot of old geezers who have been there forever and don't respect them. You know, And this happens at NASA, and it happens at every place else that I've ever worked as well. Even
Yes.
internationally, you've got similar kinds of problems. It's how do I show, how do I demonstrate that I'm a good employee?
Hmm.
How do I balance my work and job?
Yes.
I mean, I've had senior people come as guest speakers at NASA, and they say, "Hey, we're trying to reduce stress. When you guys go home on the weekends, turn off your cell phones and relax, because the job will be here on Monday morning when you come back." So then these guest speakers leave, and we ask the group, "What'd you think?" And they say, "Well, it's not true."
Yes.
It's, you know, that, hey, I don't want to be left behind. I got to leave this on all the time. I'm not going to let my colleague who's trying to get a promotion with me, let him get ahead of me. So, those challenges are all there. No
Yes.
matter what the official organization will say, it's individuals are trying to get ahead in the world, and they need to keep up, and so they'll do whatever needs to be done, and that is a challenge with balancing the work and the home life.
Yes, yes, indeed. So, what would be? I put it like this: what are the top three key leadership points that you teach that you feel are the most important to learn first?
To me, self-awareness is the most important one. I
Hmm.
mean, a colleague of mine developed in our very first book, "What Makes You Tick and What Ticks You Off." We developed kind of a spin-off on some of the personality tests that are given.
Hmm.
We can talk about that, but that to me is very important. In my next to last book, "Quick, I Need to Be a Leader in 30 Days," uh, I think there are basic leadership principles like emotional intelligence and self-awareness, uh,
Hmm.
uh, and you know I also like the whole idea of kind of the 1 minute manager, of kind of being able to identify the
Uh,
needs of your employee as the three top ones for me. But
great.
those are all critical, I think, to any leader as you start off. And all of my books touch on those, at least those three things, in one form or another.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, um, I love it. I love it. So, how does a person's temperament influence whether they're a good leader or not?
Um, it's part of the issue around being a good leader.
Hmm.
In our model of temperament, it's called the basic elements of temperament. And my late partner, Jim Harden, and I developed this. Um, it's genetics plays a role in our temperament. We're born with it. Temperament is that inborn quality of our personality.
Yes.
Um, but to me, that's half of the story. We also have choices that we make. In my workshops, I typically say, it's 50% genetics, that you're predisposed to act in a certain way because of your temperament, but
Right.
40% is the choice you make, because we have all the temperaments are in us. We,
Yes.
in our model, earth, air, fire, and water, the four basic elements,
Elements.
and
Yes.
we have all of those in us, all four. So although we are predisposed when we see a situation or we see an employee doing something, um, we have choices that we make, and it could or may not be the one that most predisposes you to act. And
Right.
the third is the circumstance, and circumstances are all different too. So the the answer is the temperament does influence your behavior.
Hmm.
That does it in different ways. And what we do with part of our self-awareness aspect of our leadership training and in the books, it's all about understanding a little bit more um, about the genetic side, about the four basic elements of temperament that get us in trouble and make us view the world the way we do. And so we spent a lot of time. We spent a whole day on that in our leadership class at NASA, and it's a lot of fun, and it's for a lot of people, it's eye opening.
Yes, yes, indeed. So, in um, in your training for leadership, when when did you decide that this was something that you actually wanted to focus on and become career oriented with it?
I used to work for well, I actually started, I think, during my time. I was a staff member for Peace Corps overseas
Mm,
in Micronesia, Central Pacific,
okay.
and in Samoa at the time. And so you get to understand some of the challenges, leadership challenges that you actually experience.
Yes.
And then when I came back to the States after that time, 10 years or so overseas, I worked for Westinghouse, and then they also had international projects of which they would bid on different things. And so I was a project manager of one in the Middle East in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and so more leadership. But then I was doing it from afar. I was kind of in Washington D.C. with the guys doing the work in Jordan, and I would only visit once a year to see them and kind of rapidly problem solve. So there was, then we did a lot of other international work, and it got to where the training that we would do got closer and closer into more just leadership, and it became leadership and management. Leadership and management, people kind of confuse the terms. They're not the same. Although, although today you're usually hired as a manager, you're not usually hired as a leader, and
Yeah.
so I think that's part of the confusion that people have. And
Yes.
so I think in the trainings, we would try to explain more of the differences between them. And that got into more and more discussions about leadership and what
Mm,
makes a good leader. And there's so many different points of view on
yes.
leadership. And there's so many books written on leadership. So
Hmm.
I thought, hey, I need to add a few more, a few more books, and give them my perspective on it as well. But I did it from a more practical side of, hey, you're in this job now. What are you going to do?
Hmm.
And I think that's been pretty good reviews on doing it that way.
So, do you think that a person can make a good leader or a good manager if they're emotionally detached from society?
No, I think that that's kind of the an older fashioned idea. You've heard, or I'm sure people would say, hey, just leave your emotions at the door when you come to
Yes.
work. Just get to work, get the job done.
Yes.
Well, the emotional intelligent leader will say, no, that's unrealistic. People are emotional creatures, and we need to, be aware of that.
Yes.
Um, and one of our four basic elements, we call it the air temperament, is kind of like the Sheldon character on The Big Bang Theory.
Yep.
The brilliant person who doesn't communicate with people. He
Yes.
doesn't get it. And there are leaders with that as their dominant temperament, and so they are often looked at as really being a cold fish.
Mm,
Hey, don't go to that guy with your problems because he doesn't get it, or she doesn't care. So and so I think part of developing and part of the reason why we have the model of the basic elements of temperament is so that we are more aware
mm,
that we have that within us. We can all be a little detached at times.
yes.
There are other times when we need to acknowledge that we've got a follower of ours who needs some support. And that's our job too, as a good leader.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. So, is there ever a time where someone needs to actually go ahead and jump through a couple of hula hoops, jump through a blazing fire, and just catch themselves before there's any danger? I'm just messing with you. I'm just
Yeah,
messing.
of course there are. In fact, think about it. When you're a new leader, there is nothing but hoops in front of you to jump through, and a lot of people close the door and won't jump through any. And
That's true.
that's not good either. That's not good either. So many times you can't win. It's a little trial by fire by jumping through that hoop, but it's a bigger fire when you don't even try.
That's so true.
Uh,
That is so true. So, in your years of growing up, did you ever come to a realization with oneself that there are certain traits that you needed to um, have or carry in order to be in the position that you need to be once you matured?
hmm. I don't want to pretend that I was very self-aware growing up. You know, uh, I don't think I really knew what was in store or what I should be doing as I was growing up.
Okay.
Um, I had a great father and mother who would give me advice. I'm sure I didn't take as much as I should have. I've had great teachers, great coaches, in sports, but you know, unfortunately, many of us we don't get it until it's too late, and that we're kind of on a path, you
Yeah.
know, and so we try to do the best we can. Uh, and then kind of looking back, we kind of acknowledge, yeah, I had a lot of good help. I didn't really take advantage as much as I should have.
That's true. So, um,
Uh,
when you were teaching the international students, was there either a relation or was there a difference or was there both that you had to deal with when you were teaching students overseas internationally and then come back to America and teaching students over here? Was there a difference?
there was a little bit of a difference. I would say, the I mostly worked in the Pacific, doing leadership training,
Hmm.
and island cultures are know how to deal with conflict pretty well. When
Hmm.
you think about it, if you're born on an island with only a few hundred or a few thousand people, you can't be in constant conflict all the time. You wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
So there is that kind of ingrained cultural issue
Hmm.
there that would avoid confrontation. So this is a challenge when you have young, especially those who are younger ones, who younger professionals who have been educated off island in Europe or in Asia or in the States, and they come back.
Hmm.
Their boss is the old traditional guy who, you know, doesn't want to hear it,
Wow.
doesn't want to hear these newfangled methods that you've learned in, Cincinnati, and
Hmm.
now we're down in Fiji, and it's not relevant. And so it's frustrating for the young folks who want to try out some new things and think they see a better way to help their organization. So that aspect was there. But luckily, I'd worked in the Pacific for many years, so it didn't throw me, but it just takes more time. In fact, I did the temperament workshop many times out there, and people fell into the four groups the same way as any place else.
Oh, wow.
But how they kind of look at it um, is a little bit different, um, because there's that deference to authority. So there's that you don't want to challenge it,
Mhm.
as easily as an American organization would.
Right.
Um, we in many times we Americans we value the sharp guy who can find the right answer and challenge authority, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't go real well out in the necessarily out in the Pacific, where
Okay.
it's the group. It's a group is more important than the individual. So it's a different kind of approach in some respects.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So, Wow, that's very interesting. That's crazy. So when you're dealing with those types of situations, when you first walk into a classroom, what is the expectation, or what are some of the things that you look for in the individual's body language?
Hmm. Body language. I guess when I first walk in, I usually ask the question, how many people are there have volunteered to be in the classroom? First, and then they raise their hand. And then I say, well, how many are voluntold to be in the classroom? Meaning they're required, their boss forces them to come. And so I usually get a laugh out of that, out of it. And so you kind of try to break the ice, because
Yes.
a lot of them, many have been. Because, even at a place at NASA, many people will say, I've tried everything I can with this employee, nothing works. Send him to Brad's leadership class. Maybe he can do something with him. And so we're on the receiving end sometimes of people who aren't real happy to be where they are. So some of the body language, I guess, are kind of the folded arms and kind of, prove to me, show me, teach me something that I don't already know, because I've been in this organization for 25 years. What are you going to teach me? Kind of.
Yes.
So you do get that now and then.
Yeah.
But so my colleagues and I, we try to use humor as much as we can. We try to show them that leadership is not all being serious, all the time. Um,
Exactly.
and that it can be fun, and we're all in this together, kind of thing.
Right.
But there'll still be people. I've had people who've sat through my whole course and didn't say two words. Even when you call on them, they kind of mumble and
Mm,
don't do anything. And you know that they just don't want to be there, don't get it, don't care, aren't going to change. And I don't. I can only do so much, and then I kind of move on to those who are more interested and willing to get involved and kind of give them the attention. But it's sad to see that, because those people are kind of wasting their time, and you hate to see that, but it
that's
happens.
true. That's true. So do you think that I know that there is an age difference in the people who have been in leadership and been in management for quite some time, and then they are encountering this young person that's finally coming up. Do you think that there could be some form of um, jealousy or envy, or just maybe some form of dismay where they just don't click at first for some apparent reason?
Sure. There's that, and that gets into. I think that can get into temperament uh,
Hmm.
a little bit, how you react to the workforce, um, because chances are most of the workforce does not have your same temperament. So, um, you know, uh, sometimes we've talked about in our course, where you say you've seen bosses or heard bosses say, "I want to treat everybody the way I want to be treated." You know, you hear that,
Yes.
except that uh, the way you want to be treated is different than how a lot of these people want to be treated. So it's more of what we call that's the golden rule, right? Do unto
Yes,
others, right?
yes, definitely.
We kind of say that there's a platinum rule, where you do unto others the way they want to be treated.
Okay.
So that implies you're more aware of your followers,
Hmm.
and are not only aware and aware of yourself, how
Hmm.
you are coming across to them.
Right.
And so that often comes up in our temperament classes, where we talk about, hey, we use earth, air, fire, and water as to describe the four elements. And if you are an earth, which is the more traditionalist, usually about 42% of the American population are earths,
Yes.
often in positions of authority as well, whether it's a teacher or a boss, a manager, supervisor.
Hmm.
But if you've got there's three other temperaments in your organization that are not Earth's, and one of them, for some folks, Earth is their shadow temperament. That's their fourth of the four that usually they have a negative reaction to.
Okay.
That means that they're predisposed to have a negative reaction to whatever you do
Mhm.
as an Earth. And so right off the bat, there's your hula hoop.
Yes.
You've got employees who aren't getting it from you automatically. You got to work. And
Yes.
so,
Yes, indeed.
so if you can see the need to understand these elements a little bit better,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and therefore, when I know that you are predisposed not to kind of go along with what I say, I'm going to have to work more with you to understand kind of where you're coming from and make sure I'm communicating better to you so
Yes.
that you know what I'm trying to do.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
that's the challenge. Yeah. So just saying I want to treat everybody the way I want to be treated, that doesn't cut it for the really effective leader.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. So, I'm remembering that you mentioned breaking the ice. Is there some type of game or gaming technique that you would use to help kind of, ease the class a little bit, make them feel a little bit more comfortable?
We have a number of games that we play in our courses, and it's a way of not only breaking the ice but just kind of getting people up and moving them around a little bit. But one of the first ones we do is and also we do it in the first day typically, is to put everybody in a big circle with a ball, and I would say I would start off with I'm holding the ball and I say I'm Brad. I enjoy writing, and I would throw the ball to somebody who'd catch it,
Hmm.
and they would point back to me and say, "You're Brad. You enjoy writing. I'm Yellow. I enjoy podcasting." And you throw to the next person, who then says, "You're Yellow. You enjoy podcasting. He's Brad. He enjoys writing. My name's Shirley. I enjoy sewing."
Right.
Now, all the way around. Now, if you're the very last person,
Uh,
you got to go through the whole class, right? So that's a fun way, and people help each other out and stuff. So that's one way that we have done it to kind of break the ice and learn people's got a little bit about their background, kind of what they like. So
yes.
that's an example.
Oh, that's
A
pretty
lot,
cool.
a lot of fun. Yeah,
I
we
like
use a lot of games. My co-trainer, oftentimes at NASA, Jeff Whitehead, was a real games expert, and he would design all kinds of leadership games
that.
that would illustrate a point. And oftentimes we would have them do the exercise and then have a debriefing where they talk about how they did as a team, what worked, who
Hmm.
was the leader, did the leadership change throughout, so you use that. So it's not just a lecture, you
Right.
know, on, open your books. It's not like a university professor. This
Right.
is a training. So these are adults. So it's adult learning. This is,
Yes.
you know, here's the concept, try it out, and let's talk about how you did or didn't
Yes,
do.
indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. So tell me, well, tell the audience, what are some of the key takeaways in all of your lectures combined?
Well, typically, in terms of takeaways, um, is that I think, in terms of leadership, is that leadership comes in many forms. That self-awareness is the key to being an effective leader. Um, I would say that you can lead without a title. We say in our class often, you lead from wherever you are in the organization. You
Mhm.
don't have to have the title manager or team leader or supervisor or anything like that. That has nothing to do with it. In fact, we talk about the types of power, three types of power in an organization. Briefly, let me explain. First is that position power. When you get that
Mhm.
title. Hey, I'm the boss. Oftentimes, that's reflected in you get the better office, you get a secretary in some organizations, or you get the company car, or there are physical examples of that show that you've got the position power. But
Yes.
that position power, it doesn't stay with you. When you move to another company, you don't retain that title. It stays in the organization, and the next person gets that position power. So that's power that's temporary.
Yeah.
It's the least powerful of the three types of power, because oftentimes people follow you because of the negative consequences if they don't.
Hmm.
Right? You
Yes.
don't want to do what I say? Good, you're fired.
Yeah.
Or you will go work on this project, or you don't get to do this or that.
Hmm.
So the second power is the power of competence, and it's the whole thing about your education and experience. So this is power that stays with you no matter where you go. You get it. Part of it, you get it, from your parents. You didn't do anything to get it. Your parents gave you that innate ability to learn or to be excited about something, and
Hmm.
so that kind of times your own get up and go willingness to participate is there, and that experience as well. That's why, as a good leader, you want to give your employees as many different kinds of experiences as you can, because that builds their competence. They're more competent. That means they can make a better contribution to the organization.
Yes.
People follow people like that because they know, hey, this person's trying to help the
Exactly.
organization. They're smart, and I'm
Yes.
going to stick with them, right? And so
Yes.
that's power that goes with you when you go to your next job. You take that experience and that education and
Mm.
that get up and go. That goes with you, right? So
Yes.
that's an important power. The third one is the power of a positive reputation.
Hmm.
This is where you have demonstrated, usually over a period of time, your competence and your willingness to help others and your contribution you make to the organization. Your
Yes.
reputation also follows you wherever you go. This is where people follow you because of who you are.
Oh.
Hey, that yellow, I'll follow him. I'll do whatever he wants. Doesn't matter what. He's the man, right? If you
Yes.
get a leader like that, you got a great leader. And
Right.
that power goes with you. So three types, of power
Yes.
that we talk about any leader can have. We
Yes.
all think, hey, I got to have that position power, but we teach that's the lowest of all of them. So, you know, you can be a leader. You don't have to have the position uh, title there to be a good leader.
That's true.
So those are some of the takeaways.
That is true. That is so
That-
true. So, tell our audience where they can reach you, some of the titles of your book, where they can actually get your book from, or your books. I'm sorry, your books from.
yeah, they're all on Amazon. They're all linked into my website, which is braddude.com. That's BRADDUDE.com. We've got even my the Finding Eden, the latest one is on there, and you can link goes through there. Also, all my connections through Twitter or YouTube, and all those are also there. We did a number of YouTube shows as well that illustrate some of the books in more detail.
Mhm.
Um, so I've got Finding Eden is the latest, and I think we've
Awesome.
gotten good reviews. So good, we need more and more reviews. Would be great. Um, Quick, I Need to Be a Leader in 30 Days is the next newest one. But we've done, what makes you tick and what ticks you off, how the basic elements will lead to a happier life, because that's application both on the job and off the job. As
Yes.
well.
Yes.
We kind of focus. The second one is a ebook on successfully applying the basic elements of temperament at work. A lot of example stories of people trying to apply those kind of on the job. I've got 40 tips for figuring out your boss. I was finding that people were asking us, some of my colleagues and I, about, well, what if I have a air boss? I've got earth, air, fire, and water. what if my dominant one is an air and he's really emotionally distant? And what can I do? So we did a book called 40 Ways of Figuring Out to Figure Out Your Boss. So it gives you ideas if you no matter who your boss is, an earth, an air, a fire, or a water, give you some insight into things to look for, things you can't do, things you could do, things to
Yes.
expect, what not to expect, kind of thing.
Awesome.
Then I've got one called keeping your teenagers safe on the road should be no accident. We try to apply our temperament to new teenage drivers,
Hmm.
uh, and it was really for parents, kind of with a checklist, because you think about it, if you've got a fire who's a dominant fire as a teenager, who's let's go, let's take the shortcuts and let's go fast and let's be distracted.
Yes.
What can you do about that? You know, so we did that story to kind of help parents with. Kind of help their teenage drivers kind of what to look for and things like that when it comes to the temperament.
Right.
And then we did a children's book around Christmas, the Great Shadows Five Christmas Secrets. You know, the shadow temperament is one that we really that's what our model of temperament distinguishes us from MBTI and DISC and Enneagram and some of the other personality tests.
Right.
We really focus on the shadow. You know, we're born with all four temperaments: earth, air, fire, water. You
Hmm.
know, like a stacked plates in a restaurant, with the
Okay.
top plate being our dominant temperament. That's
Mhm.
how we view the world
Right.
mostly. And the last one is our shadow temperament. When we see those behaviors, we typically have a negative reaction to it.
Oh, wow.
So that's the one, when we see that behavior in our organization from our employees, we sometimes get ticked off about it. And
Mm.
sometimes we don't know why we get ticked off
Yeah.
about that. And that's one of the reasons.
Cool.
Not the only reason, but the reason. So so there's that's we thought that's important for the to explore the shadow a little bit more. And so it's a little actually it's fiction of the shadow kind of jumping through a number of examples around the holiday season of where we see the shadow comes out in many of us and why.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I definitely thank you so much for joining us here at YTP Entertainment. Thank you so much for all the information that you've shared. I truly enjoyed it. It's definitely an inspiration, and I hope that my audience feel that same inspiration as well. You have definitely been great. Thank you so much.
Thank, thank you, Yella, for having me. It was a pleasure to chat about leadership and finding Eden and
Yes.
all the good stuff. Thanks so much.
Yes, everybody, please check out MrBradDude.com. Check out his latest book, Finding Eden. Mr. Brad Dude, thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you
Peace and
too.
blessings.